We're back now on Andrea Mitchell Reports. Monday marks the one-year anniversary of the brutal civil war between military and paramilitary forces in Sudan, which has forced millions from their homes. Now the U.S. is asking countries in that region to press Iran not to get involved.
We've had numerous discussions with countries in the region, and in those discussions with countries in the region, we've encouraged them to encourage other countries like Iran not to engage. I won't get into what discussions we may or may not have had with Iran.
If you're listening to us on Sirius XM Radio, that was the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Linda Thomas-Greenfield. She has also been sounding the alarm about the humanitarian crisis in Sudan, calling it, quote, catastrophic, and highlighting the fact that people, in her words, are starving. And joining me now is Tom Perriello. He is the U.S. Special Envoy for Sudan, who just returned from that region. Tom, I appreciate you making time to speak to us. We know hundreds of thousands of people have left Sudan. They have now traveled to neighboring Chad to try to escape this awful war. You were at a refugee camp in Chad, as I understand it, right along the border of Sudan. What did you see there?
We saw hunger. We saw women and children coming over in thousands saying that they had not had food for days. We saw women traumatized by the sexual violence that has been rampant in this war as a weapon of war. We see a situation that's been fragile for some time, getting far worse as we see the fighting escalate in al-Fashir. I think 90% of the people escaping are women and children. And the world really has failed to respond. The United States has certainly been by far the biggest humanitarian donor. But even in Chad, where refugees had escaped, we were seeing kids only get one meal a day and facing malnourishment. So we need much more global attention on this crisis. And of course, what we need most is to bring this war to an end.
Yeah, no doubt. And obviously, that's our desire in sort of having this conversation with you. The United Nations says, and this number was staggering, I had to look it up to make sure we got it right, 25 million people in Sudan. That's about half of the population there are in dire need of humanitarian help. Experts warn that in the coming weeks and the months ahead, more than 200,000 additional children could starve to death. So specifically, what needs to be done to help these people? And Tom, as you know as well as anybody, this is the beginning of the agricultural season there. The next several weeks, they need access to the agriculture in their own breadbasket to be able to help feed those who are going hungry there.
They do. The French government has gathered a conference on Monday for the anniversary for donations to the humanitarian need. We need countries to join us in significantly increasing their humanitarian aid. We do need Congress to move forward with bills that would give us a greater ability to do that as well. But what we're seeing inside, people need to understand, is that the RSF has burned the entire harvest season to the ground. You've seen a looting of all the storage inside. Many marketplaces are just empty of food. So there's no resiliency built in inside. It's a position of incredible fragility. And as you said, this is a nation of 50 million people, over half of whom have been displaced and are on the run. We see that increasingly putting pressure on neighboring countries. So we see a war that has been more or less a two-sided civil war rapidly becoming more ethnic, more escalated, and potentially more regional. So in addition to the horrific humanitarian conditions that we need to respond to, this is also a regional strategic crisis. And for those actors that have been part of fueling that, they need to join us in being partners for peace. And we need to see contributions coming in from around the world to meet this humanitarian need. As you said, with the rainy season coming, those access issues and the spread of disease are only going to become even more pronounced.
And obviously, this is, to so many Americans, frankly, such a foreign issue. If you're trying to make better sense of this right now, you have these two warring parties, the RSF that Tom was referring to. You have the SAF, that's the Sudanese armed forces as well, that have been fighting with another. Basically, it's a power struggle there where the people of that country have been the ones who have been so badly impacted in the middle. I want to ask you about the ambassador, the UN ambassador, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, being so outspoken about sexual violence in particular and how it's become a weapon of war. She says women and girls, some as young as 14 years old, have been brutally raped by paramilitary fighters there. What are the consequences for any of these perpetrators?
The conditions are horrific. We also see reports of slavery where people take young girls and force families to buy them back, or else they'll be traded, sometimes trafficked across the Sahel. We are seeing a generation completely terrorized inside. But we're also seeing stories of incredible courage. Sudanese youth have created the emergency response rooms to try to create cash apps and local kitchens and ways to try to feed people in some of the areas where that can still make a difference. We see people who are continuing to be journalists and document abuses on the ground at great risk to themselves, the attacks on humanitarian workers. So this is also a story of great courage and innovation. But the scale of the horrors is really tremendously shocking. And also, as someone who was in Darfur 20 years ago when the genocide was underway, there you really had the world's attention. And I think what I hear so often from Sudanese who are able to escape the horrors is they almost feel traumatized a second time by getting outside Sudan and realizing no one was even watching, no one was listening.
Right.
So we appreciate this coverage. And in the build up to the anniversary, we need to see that kind of humanitarian support, but also diplomatic pressure on these actors to step back and hand the people back the future that they won just 5 years ago in an incredibly inspiring revolution to push out the Bashir regime and put the country on the path to inclusive democracy.
Tom Perriello is the U.S. Special Envoy for Sudan. Tom, I really appreciate you making time to speak to us. Thank you.
Thank you for covering this.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.